Even with the departures of Harry Ford and Durangelo Senja, the top 10 of the Mariners farm system is still very, very good. We'll talk about it coming up here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Friday, February 13th, 2026. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. My name is Tynan Gonzalez, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Colby Patnode. We're two lifelong Mariners fans who've been covering the team for over half a decade, and today we're wrapping up our preseason re-rank of the Mariners farm system with the 10 best prospects in the organization. But before we do that, I want to shout out our title sponsor today, FanDuel. The winter games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with a bet on FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. And we're just going to get right into the top 10 here with number 10, Yorger Bautista, 18-year-old outfielder for the Mariners, comes in at number 11 on Colby's list, number 10 on mine. He was 12th the last time we did this. He was the big international free agent signing of the Mariners during the 2025 international signing period, a little over a year ago. And from what I've gathered, and there isn't much to gather, of course, again, with, these guys who have only played in the DSL or haven't even played in the DSL yet. But from what I've gathered, as is the case with, most 16, 17, 18-year-olds, Colby, Bautista is an immensely talented baseball player. He's not yet a good baseball player, though.
Yeah, which, again, not all that uncommon for international free agent signings and, really any 16, 17, 18-year-old kids when they sign. But Bautista has tools, like a lot of them. It is double plus power. It is right now plus speed. It is a rocket for an arm. He's 6'1", 6'2", in that range, about 180 pounds, give or take. And so there's room for him to add muscle strength. And if he does, when he does, which he probably will, because, 18-year-olds add muscle and strength as they train and all that. So there's a chance that the run grade goes down a little bit, which means maybe he can't play center field. But he's definitely got the arm to play right field, and he's going to be at least average. I mean, there's still some things he has to take. He has to, work on. The routes need to be better in the outfield. Right now, he's just kind of getting by on athleticism out there, which is fine because that's something you can learn. The swing has kind of a hitch in it. It's very like slow to the zone, but it's quick through the zone. But he has incredible bat speed. So right now he's getting away with it because he's facing 88, 89 mile an hour fastballs. When he's facing 96, 97, can he get away with that? I guess we're going to find out unless he's already made, an adjustment there. But for now, it doesn't sound like he has, and there's really not much of a reason for him to. He's got to put together, better attack plans and all that. These are all things that come with just learning your swing, learning who you are as a baseball player, and getting reps. He was okay in the DSL last year. I mean, he only hit 223, but he did have a 326 on base as well, but 67 strikeouts in 193 at-bats. So
yeah,
even down there, he struggled.
Yeah, I mean, like you said that, he's getting away with it. I mean, kind of, but like he struck out at basically a 30% clip in his first year in the DSL, just a 91 WRC plus, only put up a 223 average, in 53 games. Like, he struggled. He struggled in the pro games that he played in.
Sure, he did, but also 8 doubles, 3 triples, 7 homers, stole 10 bags. Like,
yeah, and that's where the immense talent comes in.
Right. You when he's at his best, when he's playing his best, you watch him and you're like, whoa, like this guy could be an all-star. It's just, you only get that every once in a while because he still has so many things that he needs to learn. Right. And so it's going to be at least 2 or 3 years before we even think about this guy as a potential big leaguer. He may not be in the org long enough to do that, but there is so much talent here, and it's easy to see why the Mariners are very excited. And frankly, it's not a profile that is all too dissimilar from Julio Rodriguez. Is he going to be Julio? No, probably not. But when you look at the tools in terms of he's better runner than Julio was when Julio signed too. Roughly the same raw power thoughts, and Julio probably a better hitter overall, but this guy, poor man's Julio, and they're very excited about him. But ultimately, it's going to be 2-3 years before I even feel comfortable throwing an actual real comp on him. Maybe he's just Jesus Sanchez, which is fine. Like that's still a good player, but we'll have to wait and see because the tools are amongst the best in the entire organization.
All right, coming in at number 9 is one of the Mariners 2025 draftees, Nicky Becker, 19-year-old infielder, comes in at number 9 on both of our lists, and he was number 9 the last time we did this, so no change whatsoever for Nicky Becker. You and I both think he's the 9th best prospect in this farm system, pretty clearly.
Sure.
And by the way, you and I are in agreement on a lot of these guys. Just spoiler alert.
Yeah. Nicky Becker, second round pick last year, actually got, some run in Modesto. He'll be back in Inland Empire to start this year. And there's a lot to like here. It's really impressive frame. He's 6'4" already at 19 years old, 190, 200 pounds. He's going to get bigger and stronger. He's pretty good defender at shortstop. Maybe he has to move to third. Maybe he just outgrows that position. It's possible. But right now he's a legitimate shortstop. There is real feel for the zone and a real ability to, find the barrel and all that. There's some good pop here, and there's probably more in there because just the frame alone suggests that he should have more than average power. So there's a lot to like here. His family is a baseball family. His uncle and his dad both played college ball. I think his uncle even played in the minors for a couple of years, maybe the majors. I can't remember the story from last summer, but there's just so much to like here. I know his brother is also a really good player, and I think he ended up at Virginia to play some college ball. So it's a baseball family. He's, physically matured. He's an above average runner. He's pretty much above average across the board in terms of tools. He's got a shot to stick it short. I mean, because he's a big shortstop, a lot of people will throw around the Troy Tulowitzki, the Trevor Story comps, which seem unfair, but this is a guy who could, in theory, play, pretty good shortstop, hit 20 home runs, maybe steal 20 bags and be decent all around bat. There's a lot to
It's either going to be that, or it's going to be like, well, he's going to be a third baseman eventually. That's going to be the narrative on Nicky Becker for the next few years.
Right. So, we'll see where he ends up. There's still a lot to work with here. 19 years old. But he is already in Modesto, which is why he gets a slight bump over Bautista for me. And I like the tools. I think the swing can get a little long. That's a bit of a concern. But again, he's got long levers. Like he's 6'4". He's got long arms, and it takes him a while to get the swing through the zone. But I do think that, because of his his family ties and all that, and because of his immense athleticism right now, he'll figure it out and he'll be able to hit. This is a guy who, we could be talking about sometime next summer, not this summer, sometime next summer as like, hey, is this the future third baseman of the Mariners? Like maybe. Right now it's still a little too early to tell. Again, it just drafted last summer. It's a second round pick, but as an 18-year-old, they threw him straight to Modesto. That should tell you what the Mariners feel about this guy. They think he's going to be a dude for them, and only time will tell.
All right, coming in at number 8 is Felnin Celesten, who is now 20 years old. Infielder, switch hitter, comes in at number 8 on both of our lists. He was number 11 the last time we did this. So he not only gets a jump because of the departures of Harry Ford and Durangelo Stanza, but we actually put him over Nicky Becker, who was ahead of him the last time we did this list. And not really much has changed. The reason that I did that, Colby, was I think we've overreacted a little bit to some of Felnin Celesten's struggles. I know he disappointed this year, and obviously the injuries are a big part of his story so far in his pro career. But I do think we've overreacted a little bit to a 19-year-old trying to kind of find his way as he starts to make his way up the ranks of minor league baseball. I still think Celesten is incredibly talented. He's going to stick up the middle. He's a plus runner. I think the hit tool will eventually come. I'm hopeful of that, at least.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it in some spurts here and there, but, power hasn't really matured quite yet either, and that's kind of a big part of it. If he's not going to hit for power, he needs to be plus defensively at shortstop and a plus runner, and he needs to get on base. And right now, he's not really doing it. He's capable of it, certainly. Again, he's 20 years old. He will be for most of this year. I assume that he just goes back down to Everett. I don't think they would, quote, demote him to Inland Empire, but maybe they do. But I'm assuming he'll start the year in Everett. And again, the tools are still all there. To be a switch hitting everyday plus shortstop, certainly they still exist there. It's just a matter of, are we going to see it? And most importantly, can he stay on the field? Now, he played, I think, 105 games last year, 107, something in that range.
102.
Okay. So not bad, but this guy who always ends up with
104. Not that it matters, but yeah.
So yeah, he ends up with hammies. He ends up with like strains and all that. Like it hasn't been any kind of tear or any kind of like broken bones or anything like that. So maybe it's just a bit of bad luck. We don't know, but the talent is still very much there to be in every. There's really no question that he's going to stick at shortstop, or he should be able to. And you know there is that question with Becker. So I think that's another point in Felnin's ledger. And he's a switch hitter who's got some pop from both sides of the plate. We just need to see it. Right. It's just kind of one of those things like right now, Felnin is here because of the reputation, because of the raw talent, and because he's had some production in the minors. He needs to take a big step. And you want to talk about like a guy who's, value has fallen across the league. It's Felnin because he hasn't played. Yeah. Like Felnin used to be a guy that you could be like, oh, that dude is going to headline a great trade package. And now it's like, maybe he's a co-headliner, maybe he's a secondary piece.
We kind of talked about him in that light with the Brendan Donovan situation. Yeah.
Right. And it's mostly just because he can't stay on the field, and because he can't stay on the field, he's not getting enough reps to consistently produce and improve. So he's kind of stagnated in his development a little bit, but this is a big year for him. He's 20 years old. So you still have a couple more years before you have to worry about anything, but it'd be real nice if he could play 120, 130 games this year and just stay on the field and see what happens.
Agreed. All right, we'll pick things up with our top 10 prospects in the Mariners farm system in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. The Winter Games are officially here, and if you're anything like us, you're locking in for events you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. Even niche events become must-watch when you're fully locked into the competition. So maybe you show up for the hockey, but you stay for the snowboarding. And hey, maybe even the figure skating. I ain't one to judge. The Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to follow them with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen for all things Mariners. And also thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Mariners with no interruptions, members only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonmariners.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. And in there, you can also find the link to our Mariners fan survey that we're currently conducting. We've gotten quite a few participants, more than we got last year, but we'd still love for you to participate if you haven't already. There's still plenty of time for you to do so. All you have to do is go in the description of this episode, whether you're watching it on YouTube or listening to it on your favorite podcast platform. Click the link, click a couple buttons, answer a couple questions. You're done. That's it. You don't have to sign up for anything. None of that. We just want to gauge where you're at with this club before the season begins. And then, as I've said in the past, we will do an episode a little later on in spring training reacting to the results of the survey. So please participate if you haven't already. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. All right, let's get back into our top 10 Mariners prospects with number 7. Lazaro Montes, 21-year-old outfielder / DH, comes in at number 7 on both of our lists. Number 5, the last time we did this, so a little bit of a fall for Laz, despite the departures of Durangelo Sanja and Harry Ford. Laz, you know the deal by now. We've been kind of the low men on him because he has really just one true path to the big leagues, to being a viable major leaguer. He has to hit. Right. He's not really going to give you much defensively. He does have a very strong arm, but the routes that he takes are not particularly good. And that's to be expected because he's a big guy. right?
Mhm.
I don't expect him to be a very good defender. I expect him to hit the absolute what out of baseballs, and for the most part he has done that, but there's been some inconsistencies along the way throughout his minor league career. He just got to AA, played 64 games there, slash 213, 319, 433. It's a 122 WRC plus because he hit a lot of homers, just a lot of extra base hits in that time, but he also struck out 30.5% of the time. That number typically doesn't go down the higher up in the ranks you go. So there's obviously concerns with that, but still, even though that we are the low men on Lazaro Montes, there's no denying he's an incredibly fun prospect.
Sure. Best power in the organization. Although I guess Cal hits 60, so you kind of have to,
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
yeah. But in terms of like realistic and like not outlier stuff, he's got the most power in the org. The problem is again, you have to get to it. And in order to get to the power, you have to get on base and you have to avoid some strikeouts. Now you don't have to, you can strike out 30% of the time and still be fine, so long as you're hitting 30, 35, 40 home runs. The problem is that when you're not going to provide any value on defense or on the bases, it does all come down to that power and putting up a strikeout rate that's at least decent enough that you can be in the lineup every day. And, Laz, I don't know that he can do that. I think this is a guy who's consistently striking out around 30% of the time. And again, that's only going to get harder as he moves up the ladder. He's also a guy, who kind of has to see the level for a second time. He hasn't, in A ball, he hit right away and that was fine. Okay. He's too good for A ball. But everywhere else, he's kind of had like an adjustment period and then he's kind of had to see the level again and then he explodes. And so he'll probably start this year in AA again. And I suspect he'll fare better this year than he did last year there. Again, last year he was fine, but it was mostly home run driven. And that's a problem. That's just not a profile I love. I like guys who can help you in multiple ways. I like players who have multiple paths to being, big league regulars. And Laz has one. And it comes with a swing that not as fast as you would like for the power he generates. There's some holes in the swing. Sometimes he's incredibly easy to pitch to. He strikes out a lot. And again, I don't see that as being something that he's going to fix soon. Now, again, is Laz 21 yet? Did he turn 21?
Yeah, he's 21 now.
Yeah. So, he's only 21. He's already in AA. So, we say we're low guys on him. It's not like we don't like him. Just we have questions on him. And if he could play a decent right field, he'd probably be higher. But I'm convinced he's a DH.
And also, with how good this top 10 is for the Mariners, you have to nitpick. You have to nitpick things with these guys. And so, yeah, with Laz, we are nitpicking a little bit. But look, with some of the other guys that we're going to talk about later on in the list, they have multiple paths to being a viable big leaguer. Laz, again, really has just the one. Like, he's got to hit, and he's got to hit for a ton of power.
Right. Kyle Schwarber is probably the absolute dream for Lazaro Montes. What's more likely to happen is that he's, going to hit 200 with like a 300 on base. And if a team gives him, 600 plate appearances, he might pop 30 homers for you, but it'll be in a way that he's not going to be a very valuable player just because, again, he's not going to give you anything defensively or on the bases. So he might hit 30 home runs, but he's probably going to be a 1.5, 2 win player type of guy.
I feel like he might be able to get on base quite a bit. Like, he's shown pretty good, like, even though that he whiffs a lot, he's shown pretty good plate discipline overall, though.
Right. But also, these are guys pitching around him because he's, the power threat in the middle of the lineup. And when you get to the big leagues, guys are going to go after you. So we'll see. And by the way, if he's striking out 35, 36% of the time, which is very possible at the big league level based on his current trend, nobody's afraid to pitch to you at that point. They're just going to throw pitches down the middle because you're going to swing and miss. So Laz has got work to do, but the talent is again, he could be Kyle Schwarber. Like, that is definitely in the path. I don't see it. I really think that this is a guy who has just as good of a shot to be, Carlos Baguero as he does to be an everyday big leaguer. So we'll see what happens. Pretty big year for him, but I suspect he'll hit pretty well in AA this year and probably finish the year in AAA.
All right, coming in at number 6 is 21-year-old catcher Luke Stevenson. Comes in at number 6 on both of our lists. Again, we are in agreement on pretty much all of these guys in the top 10. Number 8, the last time we did this, so a little bit of a jump for Stevenson, one of the Mariners' top draft picks in 2025. And now with the departure of Harry Ford, Colby, he is the best catcher in the Mariners farm system right now.
Yeah, and he's a good one. He is a little bit different from Harry in that, like, his defense is not questioned. Like, he is going to be a major league catcher. There's no doubt about it. Probably a pretty good one. He fields the ball very well. He frames well. He throws very well. Understands, working with his pitchers and all that. There's still some minor things he has to learn, like all catchers do, like Cal Raleigh had to learn. But he has such a higher starting point for his defensive growth than Harry Ford does. Ford definitely more likely to get on base, definitely more likely to hit for some average. Stevenson, a lot more power, and it gets to it pretty easily. We're talking 25, 30 home run power. So overall, when you look at the profile here, is Stevenson going to strike out a little bit? Yeah, I think he probably will. The hit tool is a little underdeveloped. I don't think he's going to hit for a high average or anything like that. Could he hit, 230 with a reasonable on base and hit 25 homers as a catcher, a plus defensive catcher? Yeah, he could. And that's why he's ahead of a guy like Laz, because he has multiple paths to be an everyday big leaguer, because his defense alone, we know how you poor the offensive environment is for catchers in the big leagues. So if you can play really good defense, you're at least a solid major league contributor. And Stevenson can do that. And when you look at what he did, granted, it's a ball. He's a college draftee. Still, he put up a 460 on base. Like, that's impressive no matter what the level is. Only 22 games, so we'll see. But 23 walks. He did strike out 19 times. So, again, I think there's going to be some swing and miss here, but I think he's going to be a plus defender. I think he's going to have plus power, particularly to the pole side. His ceiling feels like he's Brian McCann. You guys remember him? Maybe a more modern example would be Austin Wells. Pretty good catcher for the Yankees. But he does also have a kind of like left-handed hitting Mike Zunino feel to him as a floor. I think this guy's a big leaguer, at some point, probably pretty soon. It's just a matter of how high does his floor get. And that's going to be dictated by how much contact he makes and how many balls he puts in play. So I really like Stevenson. We'll see. I will probably see him quite a bit this spring. With Cal off to the WBC, he'll probably catch a lot of the back half of games in the Cactus League, and I'm sure we'll see some moonshot home runs from him, because that's kind of what he does. But as for what happens to him in the future with Cal at catcher, well, eventually Cal's going to move off at catcher sometime during that contract. I don't know when it's going to be. Won't be for Stevenson this year, but maybe next year, maybe 2 years from now. Probably 2 years from now, Stevenson's the starting catcher and Cal is more of a first base DH type. And they probably still split the job fairly evenly, but we're going to start to see them transition Cal away. Probably not this year, maybe next year. If there is,
I don't think we're going to see that for a little while, actually.
I think it's 2 years. I think Cal is the everyday, undisputed catcher for at most 2 more seasons, 27, 28. Then I think you see him start to move into the Buster Posey, Joe Mauer, where it's catch 3 or 4 times a week, play first base twice a week, DH twice a week, that type of thing. And Stevenson is good enough defensively that you won't miss a beat behind the dish defensively, of course. So I really like Stevenson, again, because he has multiple paths to be an everyday big league player.
All right, coming in at number 5 is Jonny Farmelo, 21-year-old outfielder. Comes in at number 5 on Colby's list, number 4 on my list, and he was number 4 the last time we did this. So the one guy on this list that we're kind of in a little bit of disagreement on, but it's one spot, so
barely.
Who cares? Whatever. Farmelo returned from his ACL injury this year. Didn't go particularly well. The numbers are not that great, but it was just nice to see him back on the field. I'm excited about his year coming up. Now that he's fully healthy, seemingly. Hopefully, knock on wood. I think the sky's the limit for this dude. If he can stay healthy and put it all together, he's just a super, super talented player. He's just incredibly athletic, just super exciting, just an electric ball player, truly. That's why I still had him ranked as high as I did, even with the disappointing quote unquote year that he's coming off of.
Yeah, he's got to stay healthy like Felnin. Unlike Felnin, his injuries were like actual like trauma, whereas Felnin's are kind of the tissue stuff, soft tissue injuries. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's quite fair to put the injury prone label on either of them. But if you're going to put it on one of these guys, you put it on Felnin before you put it on Farmelo. But yeah, Farmelo needs to stay healthy. He needs to play. He needs to develop. The tools are there. We know he's got average power probably. The hit tool is kind of the question mark. He's got that arm bar in his swing still a little bit. So we've noted that when he was drafted. We'll see if that changes, if he needs to or not. But it's good bat speed. Before the injury and even when he came back, he still looked like a double plus runner, 65, 70 speed. Really good arm and a totally viable center fielder. So there's a possibility here. You have, a guy who, depending on the hit tool, right? He could hit 15, 20 home runs and he could steal 30, 40 bags and play really good defense up the middle. He's 21. Yeah. He will be for most of this year. He's got to stay on the field. That's the big key here. He'll be in Everett to start the year. There's a chance he ends the year in AA, but he's going to have to hit a little bit. Like, again, last year, like you said, 230, 318, 460 in 29 games in Everett. Coming off of the surgery, he should be
basically
better.
Basically a 30% K rate as well.
Right. But he was really good in Modesto and his cup of coffee there in 2024. So we'll see how it goes for him. If he can produce and he can stay on the field, then he's got a real shot to be top 3, even with, heck, by the time we do this again, Colt Emerson's probably graduated. He might be number 1 or number 2 if he can stay on the field, even with the new players coming in after the draft. He's got that type of talent. He's got that type of upside. Farmelo, it's not a make or break year for him, but we're kind of getting there a little bit where he's just, you got to stay on the field. Let's stay on the field. Let's develop. Let's get there. He's only 21 again, but this is a guy we could be talking about making his big league debut next summer, perhaps, but probably closer to 2028.
All right. We will wrap up with the 4 best prospects in the Mariners farm system in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Indeed. Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the move. Because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certifications, and location. If I were hiring, I wouldn't just want someone who can help. I'd want someone with real experience who can jump right in. That's what I like about Indeed. You can get specific and target exactly what you need. It saves time because you're spending less energy sorting through mismatches. And with sponsored jobs, your post gets seen by candidates who are actually a fit. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring. Do it the right way with Indeed. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, we have a Patreon. It's called Control the Zone. And on there, we talk Mariners, Seahawks, all that good stuff. For more information, go to patreon.com/Control the Zone. Link in the description of this episode. So we talked about a lot of prospects over the last 3 days, Colby. And now in our top 30 re-rank of the Mariners farm system leading up to the 2026 season, we're down to 4. Coming in at number 4 is Michael Arroyo, 21-year-old infielder / outfielder. Seems like he's going to get some run in a corner outfield spot. Finished his season in AA this past year. Comes in at number 4 on your list. Comes in at number 5 on my list. He was 6th the last time we did this. So a little bit of a jump here for Arroyo, who just continues to hit. Now, I put Jonny Farmelo ahead of him just because I feel pretty good about where Jonny Farmelo is going to play defensively. I don't with Michael Arroyo yet. I feel like he's going to wind up being a left fielder, specifically in Seattle, so long as he stays with the organization moving forward. But there is that question of what is his defensive home ultimately. But the guy just rakes. So I get why you have him over Farmelo.
He'll start the year again at AA, and the numbers look fine. 255, 376. The 341 slug is what drags it down a little bit. But again, that home ballpark he plays in is not right-handed hitter friendly. So that number is going to be down a little bit. But you look at what he did in Everett, like the dude just hits. Like he line drive, foul line to foul line. He's got some pull power. He runs okay. Again, if we knew he could play second base, he'd probably be a top, 25 prospect in all of baseball because of that. The ability to hit like he can at that position is just so rare and unique, with also the ability to steal some bags. I don't think he's going to be a 20 stolen base guy at the big leagues, but could he be 10 to 15? I think so. Could he hit 10 to 15 home runs? Yeah, maybe 20 even. Like there's still some, growth there. I don't think he's going to get much taller, but he could get a little beefier. He could add some muscle, but he's a good looking prospect who just, again, line drives all over the ballpark, pull power, steal some bags. If you can find a place to play where he is average, which probably is going to have to be left field, then he's an everyday big leaguer and a really good one too. I mean, it's a comp that I've heard a lot, but I think it's a really good one. It's Howie Kendrick. You guys remember him from the Angels? Like, dude hit 300 like every year and wasn't a great second baseman, but fine. You lived with it. He plays some left, he plays some first base at the end of his career. Like I think Arroyo's on that path. And, he also kind of reminds me a little bit of Michael Young. You guys remember him from the Rangers way back when, not as good of a defender. So he won't be as good as Michael Young was. Very good player, but I really think this is a guy who continues to develop. He could be a 300 hitter. He could be Luis Arraez with a lot more pop, a lot more athleticism, and a lot better defense. Not to say it'll be good, but that's how bad Luis Arraez's defense is. But it's that type of player. He'll strike out a little bit more, sure, because he's not just trying to swat the ball. He's trying to do some damage on his approach too. But I really like Arroyo's bat. I think he's going to hit. I think there's a pretty good chance we see him at some point this year, probably after the summer. But we'll see how the transition goes to left field and all that, and how the Mariners want to stick with it, because obviously he's not going to take that job from Cole Young. He's not going to take shortstop from Emerson or third base from Emerson. He's going to have to learn to play the outfield a little bit if he wants to be an everyday big leaguer in Seattle. Mm-hmm. But very well easily could be the Randy Arozarena replacement next year.
Yeah, he begun the transition to left field in the Colombian Winter League. I don't know how that went. I don't have any information on that, but so he's already played it, and so we'll see what that looks like. I'm sure we'll get to see him at least a couple of times in spring training doing it. And
again, like you said, so yeah, we'll see him in those games.
And again, like you said, next year we're kind of expecting that Randy is going to go elsewhere during the off season. Assuming that there's baseball played, it's possible Michael Arroyo is the opening day left fielder for the Mariners in 2027.
Yeah, there's a shot. But yeah, I really like Arroyo. Dude can hit. If you really want to hyper analyze something like people love to do in spring training, he was listed as an infielder only on the non-roster invitees list. So, if you're one of those people who thinks that they can discern swing changes from a grainy video at spring training, then maybe you want to read too much into that as well.
All right, coming in at number 3 is the third overall pick in the 2025 MLB draft. Left-handed pitcher Kade Anderson, 21 years old, comes in at number 3 on both of our lists. He was number 2 the last time we did this list. We'll get to that a little later on, but Kade Anderson, who really changed the makeup of this Mariners farm system, which had really lacked in terms of top tier pitching talent, and now they have that with Anderson, with another guy we'll be talking about here in a second. It's really exciting thinking about the future Mariners rotation with Kade Anderson in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good athlete on the mound, throws a ton of strikes. It's the fastball velo doesn't jump out at you 92 to 94, but he gets a ton of swing and miss on that pitch, especially at the top of the zone. So spins it well. Good arm slot and all that, good control and command. There's a curveball and there's a changeup and a slider. All three of those pitches are average to above average. Some think the slider is going to be plus. Some think the changeup already is plus. And again, he throws a ton of strikes. Like, he's already got the fastball value is there. Like, he can get guys out with his fastball. That's the big step. And then it's like, okay, now you need the secondary pitch. And if you have that second pitch, that makes you potentially like a high leverage reliever. And it's like, okay, well, pick one of his 3 other pitches. That's his secondary pitch. Now you have 3 pitches. You can kind of work your way through the lineup a little bit. You can go 6 innings. You can get through a lineup 2 or 3 times. If you have 3 pitches and plus control and command, then you're probably a mid-rotation starter. Well, Anderson has all of that, and he might have a 4th pitch too. So, and oh, by the way, he still might add velos. There's a chance he gets even more fastball value than he currently gets. There's just so much to like about this guy. He could probably get big league hitters out right now. Like, if you asked him to start on opening day, he could probably give you 5 solid innings, maybe 6 solid innings. But the Mariners are going to slow play him. He just had Tommy John not too many years ago. He pitched a ton of innings last year for LSU, including that incredible 1-0 victory in the College World Series final. So yeah, a lot of wear and tear on the arm. Threw a lot of innings last year, so I assume they'll slow play him this year. I don't know if they're going to start him in Everett or in Modesto or in Arkansas. I think you could start him in either one. Arkansas, maybe it's warmer, quote unquote, and they want to start him there. There's a shot he debuts this year. My hunch is the Mariners would really, really like to slow play his innings and control his pitch counts throughout the minors all year, and then have him attack and have a real shot to be on the opening day roster in the rotation to start 2026, or 2027. But things happen, and you might have to use him this year. And if you do, he'll be totally prepared for that. He can absolutely handle it.
Well, if Kade Anderson is number 3, then that means number 2 is Brian Sloan. 20-year-old right-handed pitcher comes in at number 2 on both of our lists. It was number 3 the last time we did this. So he leapfrogs Kade Anderson. Why?
He's bigger, stronger, better athlete. He's younger. He throws just as many, if not more, strikes than Kade Anderson does. Do you need any more reasons? Because that's all I've got, actually. So, yeah,
he's got more pro ball experience under his belt.
Technically, sure.
The SEC is kind of like pro ball.
It's probably pretty close to A ball, which is or high A, which is where Sloan pitched last year. Also A ball as well, mostly in A ball. But yeah, what he did last year was incredibly impressive. He had 82 innings. He walked 15 guys, struck out 90. There's an adjustment period when he went to Everett. That's to be expected. He was 19 years old. He just turned 20 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So this is a young guy. He's 6'4", 6'5", 220 pounds. Like, he's built like a number 1 starter. He's got a plus fastball, good slider, plus changeup, 55 control, 50 command already. And again, he's just 20 years old. There's a ton of upside here. He can miss bats. He can pitch up in the zone. He can pitch down in the zone. He can get ground balls. Like, he can do whatever it is you need him to do. And he is just flying. He's going to fly through the system. And it's so much so that the Mariners have even refused to shut the door on the possibility that Sloan could help the Mariners in 2026. Like, there's a non-zero chance that Anderson and Sloan are teammates in Arkansas to start this year. Like, the Mariners really like Ryan Sloan. I think he'll start in Everett, but you never know. They really like him if he can stay healthy. Probably try and get him to 110, 120 innings this year. And again, like Anderson, 2027 is probably the first year he has a real shot to get to the big leagues. But I can't imagine he's not in the Mariners rotation by at least 2028. Like, he's going to move. So he'll make his, he'll be a regular in the Mariners rotation by the time he's 22, if he stays healthy. The sky's the limit with him. He's got number 1 upside. I like the pitch mix. Maybe there's a little concern about the fastball value, but I don't see it right now. And I think he's just going to fly through the system. So Sloan, just a little bit, just a little bit better than Anderson, higher ceiling than Anderson, and honestly, not too different of a floor. So that's why you got the bump for me over Anderson.
I think if you ask me, one of these 2 guys is going to become an ace, like a true ace, like how you and I specifically define it in baseball, I would take Ryan Sloan over Kade Anderson. I think Kade Anderson's going to be great. I think he's going to be a very, very good pitcher for a very, very long time in Major League Baseball.
Right.
I don't know if he'll be like a top 5 pitcher in baseball. I think Ryan Sloan, there's like the outside shot. Sloan could be one of the 5 best pitchers in baseball.
I'm not saying these are going to be like these 2 guys are going to be these guys, but just to kind of like differentiate ace versus not, like Sloan is like Garrett Cole and Anderson's like Max Fried. Both are great, right? Cy Young contenders. But one is clearly like better than the other. One is an ace. The other one is more of a number 1, number 2. And again, I'm not saying that either of these guys are going to get to that level. That would be ridiculous. But
yeah. And I'm not saying Ryan Sloan's going to be a top 5 pitcher in baseball. I'm just saying if I had to pick one to be, if I had to pick one of these 2 to be that guy, I would pick Sloan.
Yeah. Agreed.
Well, no surprise here. Coming in at number 1 is Colt Emerson. He's been the number 1 on this list for the last 5 times that we've been doing this. We do this twice a year, and he was drafted in 2023, and he wasn't the number 1 guy after he was drafted, but he was the number 1 guy pretty shortly thereafter. So I think it's probably been 4 or 5 times that he's been the number 1 guy on this list. So no surprise here. We've talked about him all winter long. 20-year-old infielder, comes in at number 1 on both of our lists. It's number 1 the last time we did this, of course. And, as we've said, like, he's going to be a part of this thing at some point in 2026 for the Mariners. It's just a matter of if it's going to be opening day or if it's going to be a little later on down the line. But he's going to get a real shot to make the club out of spring training. The, arrival of Brendan Donovan kind of tamps that down a little bit, of course, but the path is there for Emerson, and the Mariners can absolutely make that work roster-wise with Donovan's versatility. Either way, doesn't matter. When Cole Emerson gets to the big leagues, that's March 26th or May 1st, it's going to be a big deal. This is the best prospect the Mariners are going to have debut since Julio. Now, that's not to say that he is Julio. I'm not saying that at all, but this is one of the best prospects in baseball. He's a guy that could, legitimately contend for, rookie of the year. And if he pops in that way, we've talked about this team, like the sky's the limit for this team. But in general, we're talking about the shortstop of the future for the Mariners here. A guy who has really taken big strides in terms of his defense at shortstop. And it's not that he's just fundamentally a really good shortstop. He's also kind of got the highlight reel in his bag a little bit as well. He's a really fun defensive player. The offensive profile is like one of the Seagers, at least. It's probably more Kyle than Corey, but who knows? He's just overall just a really, really, really good prospect. And that's why he's number 1 on this list again.
Yeah. Just what's not to like. He's played shortstop for a while. Maybe he has to move to third base eventually, but for now he's a pretty good shortstop, good hands, soft hands, strong arm. He just hits everywhere along the way. The ceiling's probably going to be dictated by how much power he gets to. He's got a lot of pull power, which is what you want at T-Mobile Park. So it's a pretty good swing for the ballpark as well. Does he get to 20 homers? Does he get to 25? Does he stick around 15 and he's just hitting a lot of doubles? Like, that's kind of the big X factor here that'll determine, if Colt Emerson is, an all-star or if he's an MVP candidate, or, maybe he's just a average everyday player. Like, I mean, those are all possibilities for him, but those are pretty good outcomes for a player, especially at 20 years old, that we can already say that. Dude just finds the barrel. He finds the gap. He's got the pull power. He draws walks. He puts the ball in play. Just about the only thing he doesn't do at an above average clip is like steal bags. And he doesn't mean he can't. I mean, he's pretty good, smart base runner. He's just not a burner per se. So yeah, I mean, this is a guy, I think, pretty sure I said it when they drafted him. I do see a lot of similarities to Kyle Seager. And Kyle Seager was a very good baseball player for many years. I don't know if he's going to quite get to the high 20s, low 30 home run power that Seager had. But I think he's going to hit for a higher average. I think he'll have, roughly the same, maybe a little bit better on base. And he's just a little bit better athlete than Kyle Seager was. So if he gets to Kyle Seager, that is a home run for the Mariners. If he's even just an everyday shortstop for a couple of years, that's a home run for the Mariners. But this guy, Kyle might be the lowest bar of Seager he can achieve. There are some Corey Seager qualities to him too, including some late blooming power, which happened with Corey Seager as well. So yeah, I wouldn't rule out that he could get to 30 home run power, but right now I think he's probably a 20 home run power guy. I think he's 280, going to be a 280 eventually. Probably not right away. I think he's going to be 280 hitter, 350, 450, 20 homers, 30, 35 doubles, average defense at shortstop, maybe above average some years. And that just screams a walking 4-win player for, a lot of years. And again, he's only 20, so we can't even really put a ceiling on him yet because he's younger than most of the guys we just talked about who are also in the top. I mean, he's younger than Ryan Sloan, who's young. Well, he might be a couple months older than Sloan, but
he's older than Sloan, but I mean, he's younger. He's younger than Laz. He's younger than Michael Arroyo. Yeah. He's I don't know months wise, but he's the same age as Felnin Celesten.
Yeah, he's younger than Farmelo. He's a young dude, and we don't know what the ceiling is quite yet, but it's quite high. I can assure you that.
So to recap, because that does it for a top 30 re-rank for the Mariners farm system. Coming in at number 30 was Brock Moore, right-handed pitcher. Coming in at number 29 was right-handed pitcher Grant Knipp. Coming in at number 28, outfielder Victor Labrada. Coming in at number 27, infielder Diego Contreras. Number 26, outfielder Jared Sundstrom. Number 25, right-handed pitcher Chia Shi Shen. Number 24, right-handed pitcher Christian Little. Number 23, right-handed pitcher Matt Tiberia. Number 22, infielder Leandro Romero. Number 21, right-handed pitcher Michael Morales. Number 20, left-handed pitcher Robinson Ortiz. Number 19, right-handed pitcher Lucas Kelly. Number 18, infielder Brock Rodden. Number 17, outfielder Gregory Pio. Number 16, left-handed pitcher Mason Peters. Number 15, right-handed pitcher Alex Hoppe. Number 14, right-handed pitcher Teddy McGraw. Number 13, outfielder Juan Rijo. Number 12, outfielder Corbin Dickerson. Number 11, right-handed pitcher Griffin Hughes. Number 10, outfielder Yorger Bautista. Number 9, infielder Nicky Becker. Number 8, infielder Felnin Celesten. Number 7, outfielder /DH Lazaro Montes. Number 6, catcher Luke Stevenson. Number 5, outfielder Jonny Farmelo. Number 4, infielder /outfielder Michael Arroyo. Number 3, left-handed pitcher Kade Anderson. Number 2, right-handed pitcher Ryan Sloan. And of course, number 1, infielder Colt Emerson. So that does it for our list. That does it for Prospect Week. That does it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And once again, if you never miss an episode, it's time to make it official. Join the Locked On Everydayer Club and get ad-free audio, access to our members-only Discord, and more, all built for our most loyal fans. For Colby Patnode, I'm Titan Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Titan Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. You can also find us on Instagram at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.